You ever come home and feel like the world you left behind just doesn't exist anymore? That's how it hit me hard when I stepped out of my truck and looked across what used to be my slice of heaven, now just a bare, broken patch of dirt. Every single tree gone. Not trimmed, not moved, ripped out by the roots like they were never meant to be there. The whole place smelled like sawdust and cheap diesel tire tracks. Still fresh, a bulldozer sitting smug by my barn blade shining with splinters and sap. 4 days. That's all I'd been gone. 4 damn days. And in that blink, the HOA had wiped out everything green on my land. No warning, no call, nothing. You got to understand, these weren't just trees. These were ancient maples, oaks, pines, guardians that had been standing tall before anybody even thought to form a homeowners association. I'm not going to lie, my hands shook as I crossed to where my favorite sycamore used to sit, that old split trunk where I'd spent long afternoons just breathing in the quiet. Gone. All that was left was a raw wound in the ground roots torn up like bones. My phone buzzed neighbor Tom. He tried to stop them. Said they waved some letter around, claimed everything was approved. I thought you knew he texted. I didn't. That's what made it worse. Nobody told me a thing. I hadn't signed anything, hadn't seen a notice, hadn't so much as waved at the HOA since I bought this place. Somebody forged my name or something close enough because someone gave them the green light. Let me back up a sec. My name's Mason Reed. I'm 44, retired firefighter. Spent 23 years running toward burning buildings, never thought twice about it. All I wanted at the end of that road was peace, just a piece of land where I could breathe, raise a couple horses, fix up a barn. So last spring, I bought this 10-acre ranch on the edge of Maplewood Ridge. It was perfect. Needed some elbow grease, sure, but it was mine. Didn't take long to meet the infamous HOA. My land had just been sucked into their boundary, originally wasn't, but lines change. First person I met was Barbara Hastings, president of the HOA. Picture, pearls, a poodle, and a Lexus smile. That's all teeth, no warmth. She gave me the rundown. No unapproved fencing, no livestock over 300 pounds. No landscaping changes without written blessing from her throne. This is a community of standards, she said, handing me a stack of rules like she was offering cookies. Yeah, right. Things got weird fast, violations for barn lights, hay in view, even for my 2 rescue horses, Dakota and Spirit. I pushed back, showed them deeds, got a lawyer pointed out that half my land technically wasn't theirs to boss around. Didn't matter. Barbara made it clear, follow their rules or pay. When my sister Claire invited me to Montana for her birthday, I almost didn't go. I even joked with Tom Watch, the ranch man, don't let the HOA steal the dirt. He promised. But that's all it took, 4 days. 4 days for them to move in with chainsaws and bulldozers and clear every tree, claiming they were unsafe, a violation, whatever lie they could invent. Tom saw them come, tried to stop them. Called the office, nobody picked up. By the time I got his messages, it was over. I stood there in the dirt crows circling the gate, creaking like a warning. I wasn't going to break, not yet. I walked the field boots, crunching splinters, horses skittish and restless. I called the HOA straight to voicemail. Tried Barbara, no answer. I drove into town, steam practically coming out of my ears. And that's where the first real twist hit. Parked behind the HOA building was a white work van. Doors open, inside all kinds of tree-cutting gear and a clipboard with a map. My land marked with red X's every stand of trees. But the signature at the bottom wasn't mine. Wasn't anyone I knew. Before I could think, a guy in a navy polo HOA badge on his chest stepped out cold, unreadable. "You're not supposed to be back yet," he said twice, like I was the one out of line. Claimed he was following orders, just the maintenance guy. Take it up with the board. And he peeled out of there before I could get another word. But I saw the name Henry C. Ballinger. Drove straight to the HOA office, demanded answers. The receptionist nearly fainted when I asked about Ballinger. Some guy named Ron finally appeared, legal compliance tie, half off, sweating bullets. "We're aware of the incident." He said, "Pre-approved beautification order." I lost it. That's a lie. My land's protected, you had no right. He dodged and stalled, said Ballinger wasn't public-facing. That's when I knew this wasn't a screw-up. It was a setup. I hit City Hall next, pulled every zoning file and land permit I could find. And there it was, a brand new permit, Ballinger Estate Development, targeting my lot for community green space conversion. The plan: remove all non-native foliage, basically clear my land and absorb it into HOA control for a fancy botanical garden. They figured I'd never notice until it was too late. Back home, I walked the raw field mine spinning. Then just as the sun dipped, a stranger showed up, clipboard in hand, posting a notice on my fence: eminent domain seizure, 30 days. They weren't just bluffing now, they were making a legal play to take everything I owned. The guy who posted it said, "You'll find everything you need in the envelope. Bollinger's just a name. You won't find the real people." And he was gone. I knew what I had to do. Called my lawyer, Alan Sharp, no nonsense, seen his share of crooked cases. Called Mark, old friend now, a private investigator, the kind who could sniff out fraud from a mile away. Mark walked my land, took pictures, gathered samples, told me straight. They just needed it cleared for zoning photos, not for your safety. This is about land value, Mason. He was right. The new tech hub 10 minutes away meant every acre was gold, and my ranch was now primed for development. Days passed, no word from the HOA, until I spotted Barbara outside the bakery with her bored cronies sipping lattes like nothing happened. I confronted her, called her on the lies, the forged papers, the threats. "Careful, Mason, you're new here, you don't want enemies," she purred. I promised her. "See you in court." Mark dug deeper. Turns out Ballinger wasn't a real person, just a shell company linked to Barbara's husband. They'd done this before, flipping properties through fake eminent domain, pocketing HOA dues. And I wasn't the first. A widow lost her land the same way a teacher lost her pond, a single mom driven into foreclosure by fines. It was all about money, about control. We went public town meeting at the church. Neighbors stood up, shared their own stories. Then, like a punch to the gut, my horses disappeared. Tire tracks led away, a note nailed to my barn: "Back off or lose everything." I called the sheriff, Donnelly. A good man promised to help. We followed the trail and found Dakota and Spirit locked up on HOA land, guarded by Barbara's husband himself. He claimed they were found wandering. Sheriff didn't buy it, detained him on the spot, released my horses. Mark kept digging, found internal emails. Barbara and her husband funneled hundreds of thousands in dues through shell companies. We built a case prepared for court. But then they went after Tom, my neighbor, the only witness who stood up for me. Found him bleeding in his driveway, phone smashed. They were trying to erase everyone in their way. I posted online, called for anyone who'd been wronged by Maplewood Ridge HOA to speak up. The floodgates opened. Stories poured in, people angry, people ready to fight. Ellie, an old-timer, brought out an original hand-drawn map, showed my land never belonged inside HOA borders. Fraud, plain and simple. We filed the lawsuit, named Barbara, her husband, every shell company, filed an emergency motion. The judge, a sharp lady named Harris, scheduled a hearing. That night, rally outside the community center. Neighbors, signs, stories. Then Jake, a local teen, rushed in. He'd seen boxes of files in Barbara's open garage, labeled with foreclosure targets and board buyouts. All the dirty secrets stashed at her house. I called Nana, a quiet assistant at the HOA who'd always seemed nervous, asked for her help. She met me, hands trembling, handed over a backpack full of the real evidence, fake signatures, bribery, everything. We brought it to court. Judge Harris read every line, eyes narrowing, gavel banging. This is about corruption, abuse of power, and fraud. All land seizures halted. Full investigation ordered. Barbara looked like a ghost, her world crumbling. But just as I let myself breathe, Claire called. My barn was on fire. Black smoke rolling up into the sky, my heart in my throat as I raced home. Horses were safe, thank God, but everything else was lost. Spray painted on a charred board. This is just the beginning. But we pushed through. The judge froze all HOA activity, appointed a third-party auditor. Turns out Barbara and her husband had sold off dozens of seized lots to out-of-state investors. The board resigned. Barbara arrested. David ran but got caught in Arizona. We rebuilt Neighbors, pitching in the barn, rising again, wildflowers planted where the ground was burned. And the day Judge Harris signed the order freeing my ranch from the HOA forever was the day I finally exhaled. That night, beer in hand, I looked at the stars, thought about the roots that still ran deep, deeper than any fraud. But you know what? Just as I was about to turn in, a white envelope showed up at my gate. Inside, a deed to a neighboring plot, Franklin Development Group penciling my name as the new owner. No explanation. Note at the bottom, you may have won this battle, but the war for Maplewood Ridge is just getting started. I stared at that empty field, knowing the fight wasn't over. And if you're out there, anyone who's ever tangled with a crooked HOA, anyone who's ever watched justice lose and thought it was the end, this story's for you. So what do you think? Where does justice end and power begin? Share your story in the comments. Like, subscribe. Let's keep fighting. Your voice matters.